Joey Crack. He's at probably about a 50% approval rating on this one. From what I've did my little research, social media. Said it was okay that PnB Rock got robbed, but he shouldn't have been killed.
Is that what he said? This is like kind of touchy. Is that what he said?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah. Let's make sure we get this quote
when he
right.
was.
No,
when
I
he
know,
was,
and I saw it, but
you saw it.
yeah.
Like I was about to read his comment because he used himself as an example.
Okay. Well, if
he said, "I used to stick up people. I used to rob people. I'm being honest. I'm not trying to front. I'm not trying to front for y'all." He said, "I'm not against them robbing him. Caught him, robbed him. Why do you have to kill him though?" Is what he said. And then, Fat Joe also in his interview was talking, and he did say this is not a laughing matter, y'all, as it relates to the crowd. So he was taking this serious, but the reception has been kind of mixed based off him saying, if you're going to rob the dude, rob him, but you didn't necessarily have to kill him just because he was supporting a, black-owned business. He's with his girlfriend, and, they just out having a good time. So I'm seeing mixed reviews on that. What do y'all think about that when you see it? And you just see the comment as is because, it's kind of like what we talked about with Charlemagne. Charlemagne, he's right and he's right here, but this and there's that. So I don't know. This one might be the same way. What did you think about this, Jay Moore, when you saw it? Because I watched some of the interview and he was not playing around when he said this.
No, it's kind of crazy because people laughed because when you hear it, it sounds
inflammatory.
Oh, definitely inflammatory. Yeah, definitely.
But there is part of me that understands what he's like. Okay, if you're living that life and you like, okay, somebody got to give it up. Cool. But anytime you have a gun and you stick somebody up, you're prepared, or at least you should be prepared to use that gun. And or you have to live with the consequences that come with having that gun on you and you're living that life.
Right.
Because things get out of hand very quickly. Somebody get to scuffling and somebody said, no, you're not going to take much. If you're going to, because there are people who they get into their Scarface, whatever, and they've been watching too many movies. It's like, no, you want
to kill me. If
you want this chain, you got to kill me. And then there are people who are like, there's some people who don't have the heart for that. Sure. And so they might try to rip it off them. But there's some people who are like, all right, it is what it is. We're going to do this like you asked me to do it. I think what was lost is, when you listen to all of it, Fat Joe was trying to say how he's living was not right.
Right.
Okay. I think that was lost kind of in the laughter.
Right.
And, and people not understanding the seriousness. Because sometimes when street dudes get to talking and you're a square individual, it sounds funny, but I think
and they're not playing.
Yeah. And so when he said that, I was like, man, that's outrageous. But in a way, it registered to me. He said, all of this is wrong.
Right.
But he said, if you're going to be that wrong, don't take it to the level where you take somebody's life.
Which I agree with.
But at the same time, I think he was trying to show but it got lost in translation. All of this is wrong. All of you robbing your brother for material things when he's just trying to live his life is wrong.
That was his message on the actual show. He came back around to say,
so I mean,
that's the whole point of me saying this.
And it's like we have to put things in context. A lot of times we'll take the wildest part of an interview and say, oh man, he was wild, and Fat Joe, this, that, and the third is irresponsible. But I was like, when you listen to the entire clip, he was saying this is wrong. We shouldn't be having to live like this. But a lot of times we think about the things we just shouldn't do and the way things should be as opposed to the way things are.
Yeah.
And right now, the way things are, people are going to rob you. If you are shining and they see something that that they think even temporarily will make them live just a little bit better, or they just feel like you got it and I want it. I understand so I can say I understand where Fat Joe was coming from. I just think if you didn't hear the whole conversation in context, you're going to think, wow, that was really irresponsible.
It could easily be taken out of context if you didn't see it. Luckily for me, I actually got a chance to see the clip. It just drove the point home when he said, nah, y'all, this ain't a laughing matter.
Because at first it sounded because Fat Joe has that kind of very affable way of speaking to people to make them feel a certain level of comfortable to where maybe you don't realize how serious he is when he's saying something.
Facts. What you think, Lone? You talked about possibly stuff being inflammatory in terms of his comments. What do you think about everything now that we have a correct context?
No, I feel the same way. It is an inflammatory thing to say, but again, you have to factor in how he's saying it and what his intent is behind it. I do think that there is a place to where I think we have to be responsible for how we say things, not necessarily what our intent, like we can intend whatever we want, but you know, the outcomes matter. But in this particular instance, I feel like he did his best to make sure his point was made. And I think that that's fine. And I think the way I understand where he's coming from with it, you know what I mean? Jay highlighted it perfect. So I don't really have anything additional to add to this. I feel like you guys have already covered it. I feel like that was his intent. You know, if this is a part of your life and you feel like you can't get out of this right now and this is who you are, maybe look at it a little bit differently. You know, maybe try better to not ruin somebody's life, you know, because we only get one.
I actually give Joe peas for taking the responsible route, because this could have gone, you know, it could have gone completely left. But the fact that he wanted to reach out and, well, actually just tell the crowd, hold on, wait a minute, as I explain my story. I give him peace for that, because he was very responsible in his explanation.
Yeah, I mean, as a response to that, but I don't feel like, but to your point, I don't think, you know, I feel like that was his intent to start with.
To begin with, okay.
Yeah, I don't feel like he said something crazy and then he was like, well, hold on, no, I feel like that was his intent to begin with. He just didn't distribute it, you know, in the way that it was to hit.
Well, you know, and I think
when the laughter hit, he was like, "Whoa, hold up, that's not what I mean."
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so
I love that. I love that part.
I think a lot of time, and this is something that Lone very much alluded to, is, and this is it's issue I've had to deal with just in my life, because people, you know, their perception is different than my intention. They'll hear something I say and think, "Oh, well, how could you say that?" I was like, "That's not what I meant." You know, what I intended to say and how you perceived what I intended to say, you know, are on two different sides of the field. Yep. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's, you know, and plus people are just looking for anything else, looking for clout, looking for clicks to say, "Oh man, how could Fat Joe say this?"
Bro, there are literally titles of articles that says Fat Joe says it's okay for XYZ to get robbed. I mean, and it's like, what?
Yeah, a lot of this is drama farming, is what I like to call it. I mean, it's clout farming. It's drama. You're farming for drama. You're looking for it. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, it's again, it's why I think the intent is. Look, I used to like religiously feel like, no, my intent matters more than
your
perception and the way that it hits. But no, I've come back on that, because no, like I have to do a better job of making sure that what I'm saying and how I'm presenting it gets received in the way that it needs to. And I feel like, but I don't feel like that's necessarily anything negative that Joe, I feel like Joe, even though he didn't arrive there, you know, like right off the bat, he got there with everything. He got there. And I feel like that was his intent. So I feel like he did that perfectly fine. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, drama farming, it's looking for clicks, man. It's just, we've talked about that. It's like, what can we do? Because we all know now, it's mainstream to know that the more controversy that we have is the more clicks. And again, the more clicks you have, there's people out here that are trying to make their life on social media, and they're trying to get as many clicks because they're trying to get YouTube money, or they're trying to get social media money, and
they're trying to be influencers.
They're trying to do all these things, but why are they trying to do these things? Because they want to be able to be successful in something that they somewhat enjoy, and some sort of culture that they enjoy. Yeah, and a lot of times we don't see as influencers, as creators. Now, I'm not saying anybody here, because I know that we don't do that, but we're a little bit more seasoned than that. But there are a lot of people that they're just like, yo, this is the way. We can get there a lot faster if we do it this way. Right. Well, and we can attain that. We've seen this with academics. I mean, not to throw academics in here, but
you can.
But academics with the drill scene, he saw potential. He's like, I'll cover Chirac. I can get people to click on it. I'll do that. He was drama farming for Chicago violence. Same thing that No Jumper has done in the past. Regardless of their nuanced, subtle takes of kind of liking stuff, that's kind of what that is.
Let me ask you.
I don't want to go too side, but
I don't want to either, but I'm kind of here because I want to ask you this, because I know you follow the trends. You're aware of, you know, YouTube and algorithm and stats and stuff. This is what you do, so you know it. I had this conversation the other day about news, quote unquote news reporting. I feel like we're in the era now that anybody that talks about anything will categorize their channel as saying, I'm reporting on the news. And sometimes that burns me up, because it's like, it's not that you're reporting on the news, you're talking about something that's already happened and like pouring gas onto it as you talk about it. Like you're talking about it in
there's a specific term for that realistic.
That's why I'm
it's called react content.
Okay.
Which is why I've even changed it. If you're looking at this on Bringing Down the Band's YouTube, you'll see it probably says New Old Heads React to. Okay. I've changed that intentionally because I wanted the intention behind what we're doing for people to know exactly what we're doing. We're not breaking news or anything with what we're doing. We're reacting to stuff that's happening.
There's a huge misconception with that, the titling though. Like I see it all the time. I'm just reporting on the news. No, you're not, fam. You're not reporting.
You're
on the
reacting
news.
your opinion based upon some stuff that you heard and blah, blah, blah.
This is not reporting.
Yeah.
It's not reporting.
I mean, think about even this show today, right? We brought up the Lil Baby concert stuff, right, that we were talking about. But literally, I pulled it up to look exactly what it said, and I found other information on it.
Bingo.
Even in that small specific thing right there, we didn't have enough context to really report on what we were talking about. Right. We should have done more due diligence to make sure that we were doing that in that aspect. And that happens all the time. And it's something that it's super, everybody does it that does this type of content, especially people that do it as much as we do.
Right.
But again, our intent isn't to not have the right information. Our intent is to always have the good information and to always make sure we have anything. But did we, in that particular instance, what if I didn't randomly pull it up? Then we're having an entire segment on something that isn't fully educated in what we are talking about. So that's where that's brings it all the way back around to intent versus execution. You know what I mean? And so, we're doing React content and we're doing the best that we can as far as to get our information out there. Mike does a great job of doing that, obviously, but that's, you know,
that's what happens.
Another thing too is it's everything moves so fast now. Things get updated. There's been times that we've come in here with anticipations of talking about something, and it's like, boom, something just happened, you know, as we sat down. And then we have to, sometimes we miss it, sometimes I'll catch it.
But sometimes even when we finish, before the episode gets put out, something will change.
Something will change.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's a tough spot to be in when you're releasing content because you want to be as thorough as possible. We pride ourselves on that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
look,
it's a lot of stuff out there that just gets thrown up against the wall.
First of all, everything happens so quickly.
Right.
I mean, I'll never forget. It was the we talked about the Drake versus Pusha T.
Oh yeah.
I'll never forget. Like we were getting ready to be like, oh, Drake got him, and like maybe about 15-20 minutes before we were about to record, that's when the Pusha T track came out. So we had to completely change how we were going to react and talk about that particular subject based on the fact that like, oh, right before we went on the air, here comes Pusha T.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, like, so when you're a content creator, you know, like things sometimes, like I said, we record this show a couple of days, a lot of times, unless you watch us do it live. Most people listen to us on Thursday or, you know, whatever.
Or whenever the segment's hit.
Yeah. And the things that could change about, you know, what we talked about, you know, sometimes, and that's crazy. Sometimes that determines on what we talk about. Cause sometimes we're just like,
but it does happen though.
Because the thing is sometimes, you know, like I said, we record on Tuesday.
We'll be like, it'll be stale or
something
work or
monumental might happen on Wednesday. And by the time we're able to come back here and talk about it that next Tuesday,
news cycle's already gone. It's been gone.
Everybody else has already given their opinion on it. Why are we going to talk about it?
Why do we need to add noise to it?
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well,
because we are doing mostly react content. We're not breaking news. We're talking about stuff.
I used to try to search for topics, and I had to learn this the hard way. I used to look for topics and just be like, okay, I'm going to start now and get prepped for next week. That's the wrong approach. I need to look on Monday. I need to look on Tuesday up in the day as we're getting ready to prep because that's how things happen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're talking about something that happened last Thursday, it's already a wrap. Yeah.
Unless it's like monumental or it's something that can...
It'll have legs. Yep.
That can last through time because it's
talking about an album sometimes.
Yeah, if it's something that lasts. Well, if it's content that I can't even think of an example of it necessarily, but every once in a while there's like a subject matter that isn't necessarily time, like the timing of when we put it out matters. Time sensitive. Thank you.
No, that's just I didn't mean to go that route, but it's just
it's cool.
It's something that was on my mind, man, because we have to, you know, categorize certain things when you see it on YouTube, but YouTube is the wild, wild west. That's what I'm learning. There's people out there everywhere doing everything. Everybody got a podcast. Everybody's a reporter. They report the news. They sing, they rap, they dance, they
Let's not confuse actual journalism with, commentators. That's the thing that's been blurred, not just by what we do, and we're talking about entertainment and whatever, but like when you watch any news channel, some of these people are not journalists. They're not telling you what happened today. And when they get to talking about, how does this affect this, that, and the third, they're getting into commentating.
Right.
They're not just saying
that's what a lot of the news is anymore.
Like
true.
When you watch Sports Center and they're like Blue Jays 6, Yankees 4.
That's
reporting the news.
Yeah.
When you get into saying, all right, how does this affect Giancarlo Stanton being able to sign another contract? That is commentating.
Yep.
That's not journalism.
Yeah, I heard somebody say. I hope I'm not.
The only reason I know any of these names is because I play it.
I see. Back to the show. I see you. It's like Adam Twink too. He's like, yeah, we're journalists. This is what we do, fam. Journalism, reporting, all that type of stuff. It's a gray area now. It's just a big old.
Now he does interviews. He does do interviews. So that is.
Is that what you consider?
That would be. Would you consider that? I could
journalism?
See where there's a level of journalism there.
Okay.
But when you're just like, how does this affect? Oh, I don't know. I'm not even going to say the name.
I know what you're talking about.
But so then you're just talking.
Questioning matters too.
Yeah, that is reaction, commentating, whatever. But it's not journalism.
Yeah.
Get me started on the line of questions.
But then I got my own issue with so-called journalism. But I'm not going to get into that right now.
Yeah, we ain't go down that road.